In the readings today, we have the story of Joseph in the Old Testament who was forsaken by his own brothers who hated him and wanted to kill him. And that's really kind of amazing that we have the 12 patriarchs of the Old Testament who would do that to their own brother and sold him into slavery. And we find out later that he was pleading with them to save his life, not to do that. And yet he was treated that way by the patriarchs of the Old Testament, the 12 patriarchs. So they must have repented from that, and by the end of their life, certainly Joseph forgave them. And our Lord in the Gospel speaks about the injustices that were done to the prophets in the Old Testament, and they were always mistreated and many times killed, and leading to the Son that God would send to try to bring them to conversion. And they were envious towards him, as the patriarchs in the Old Testament were envious of Joseph, and they wanted the inheritance. The Pharisees wanted the inheritance of Jesus. They wanted his popularity. They wanted the power that he was getting from the people, and so they put him to death. This kind of injustice that our Lord took on himself, the greatest kind of injustice, Joseph too, being treated unjustly. When we think of the injustices of the world, there's all kinds of injustices that happen to us and to many people throughout the world. Can think also of Joan of Arc. Our Lord ordained injustices to happen to her, even though she did his will and she fought for France and didn't even see the crowning victory of the French against the English, and she had to be captured and then placed in prison and then burned to death. What a reward for all that she did for the people, abandoned by her King Charles, and had that injustice. So we look at the injustices of the world, and what's the answer? It's like asking why is evil? Why does God allow evil to be in the world? I think the easiest answer to that is heaven. God is going to more than overcompensate us for the injustices of this life, the sufferings of this life, the evils that we undergo. As St. Maximilian said, why does good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people? Because those who are not going to find salvation in this life have to have the reward for some little good that they do, some of the good that they do. So God allows good things to happen to them in this life because that's all they're going to get. It's the only reward they're going to get. And those who suffer in this life for doing good, speaking the truth, will have their reward in the next life and will pay for whatever sins they've committed in this life through the bad that they suffer. But we look at little children who haven't committed any sin and they suffer. The innocent suffer, but God has it all made up to them in the next life. And the innocent very often need to suffer in this life for the guilty who don't know how or are not able to be good, not able to change their life because of their caught up in their sins, and they don't see the way and don't try to find it. They need help from the innocent to suffer for the guilty, to bring them to conversion. So even little children perhaps suffer for the conversion of the adults, sinners. So we see when we are caught up in injustice and the evil and sin and sufferings, we look to our Master, we look to Jesus, who has suffered it all before us, who suffered the greatest kinds of injustices. We look to him to see the answers, to see the consolations that we need, the strength that we need. He has set us the example of embracing crosses, embracing these injustices, knowing that we will have a greater reward in the next life, but that also God is using them for a greater good for us and for others. And we know that uniting our sufferings to our Lord, He will make our crosses lighter. He'll help us to bear them. And He will be with us, especially. He's always more with those who suffer than those who don't. And so we have that consolation to know that God will always support us and sustain us and be with us if we unite our sufferings to His, carry our crosses patiently and imitate Him.
Fructum ventris tuum.